I am afraid of the whiplash of it, of how love can live so openly in a face and then one day board up the windows and leave nothing lit inside, like a house that still smells like us but answers no one. Because he was not just some passing fever, he was my best friend. For nearly 3 years, the person stitched into the ordinary fabric of my life so thoroughly I stopped noticing where I ended and where his presence began, like breath. Automatic, unnoticed, essential, and later he became something else too, something deeper, something with heat in it, something that turned memory into a body I still live inside, a place I can still walk through blindfolded and know exactly where everything is. I am afraid because I still remember exactly how he looked at me. Not vaguely, not in fragments. I remember it with cruel precision, the kind that does not blur with time, the kind that sharpens instead like glass in the bloodstream. The softness that came over his eyes right before he kissed me, like something in him always melted first, like whatever armor he wore for the world simply did not survive being this close to me, like I was the only place he ever set it down, like I was the one place he allowed himself to be, unguarded without asking permission. I remember the lines beneath his eyes, pulling at the corners when he smiled with his whole being, that full, unguarded smile that made him look almost boyish, almost relieved, as if pulling me into him was the first honest thing he'd done all day, like truth lived in his hands and nowhere else. I remember the feel of his skin beneath my fingertips, sliding his shirt off over and over again, his body warm and real and impossibly familiar. The shape of him learned inch by inch, the way a favorite prayer is learned, by repetition, by devotion, by need. Like my hands could still find him in the dark of any lifetime. I remember how sometimes he would ask me questions that sounded casual but never were. What do you love most about me? What is it about me that attracts you? And there was always something in his voice that betrayed him, a quiet self-consciousness, as if he needed the answer, not for vanity, but for reassurance, as if he stood on the edge of himself waiting to be chosen, as if my words were the only proof he believed, as if some part of him could not quite believe he was lovable unless I said it aloud, and I did. I told him I loved the way his arms pulled me in, like the rest of the world could wait its turn, like everything else outside of us was just background noise to this. I loved the strength in his hands, how they held my hips with certainty, steadying me like he never wanted to risk letting me drift even half an inch away. Like losing me was something he already feared. I loved the way he could be so strong and still somehow so careful, like tenderness and hunger had learned how to share the same body. Like he knew I was something you don't rush even when you want it. I remember the first time he lifted me. I was showing him my new house, my brand new rooms, the walls still smelling like fresh paint and possibility, and there, in the bedroom, in the middle of all that newness, he wrapped his hands around me and picked me up, as if it was the most natural thing in the world to gather me into his arms and hold me there tightly, grasping my ass with both hands. Like he had already decided this was where I belonged, with him. And after that, it became one of those small, private patterns love writes into itself. The kind that feels inevitable after it begins. Those afternoon hours when he would come over, the daylight folding around us, the remains of a meal still lingering in the kitchen, plates not yet put away, the ordinary still warm from being touched, and then his hands would find me again like he couldn't help himself from touching me, like gravity remembering its purpose, sometimes in the living room, sometimes in the dining room. Always with that same look in his eyes, like he had already crossed some invisible distance before he ever reached me, like the decision was always made before the moment, like he had been planning this. He would lift me and I would fold around him, trusting, instinctive, my body answering his as though it had always known how, like recognition instead of discovery, like our souls already knowing and just finally catching up to each other, like the night we said soulmates, out loud. And it broke something open in us we couldn't put back. And he would carry me toward the bedroom with that kind of gentleness that undid me every time. Never careless, never rough with what mattered, laying me down like I was something to be cherished even in want. Like I was both the hunger and the thing worth protecting from it. Like desire did not cancel tenderness, it deepened it. And that is what haunts me. Not only the wanting, not only the heat of him or the nearness or the sounds of a room filling with all the things language cannot hold. It is the softness that haunts me. The way he looked at me when he was close enough to forget every lie he told himself. Like truth slipped out of him through touch, as though his hands betrayed him, telling me everything he could never say out loud. The way his mouth could turn reverent against my skin, like he knew this was something sacred and took it anyway, worship disguised as instinct. The way he seemed to memorize me with every kiss, as though love and desire were never separate in him, only different shades of the same surrender. Like he was afraid to forget even a single inch of me. I remember the way his eyes changed when I would whisper his name while in his loving embrace, how they would darken, not cruelly, not coldly, but with that flash of knowing, that almost smile, that unmistakable look of being undone and delighted and amused by it, as though he liked the version of himself that existed with me. The way he would say, I will do this every day for the rest of my life, and I will relish in bringing you pleasure, like forever was something he could taste on his tongue. His promises were enough to make forever feel possible, even now. I remember how he felt above me, and the sounds of his belt hitting the floor like a quiet, irreversible decision, and the weight of him not as a burden but as a shelter, as if for those moments the whole world had narrowed to heartbeat and breath and the fragile holiness of being chosen. And I remember thinking over and over, he loves me. Not because he said it, though he did remind me frequently, but because of the way he looked at me, when there was no reason to pretend, when there was nothing to gain, when it was just us and the truth of him spilling out without permission. Because eyes do not soften like that for nothing. Hands do not tremble with that kind of care for nothing. A man does not hold you like you are both refuge and ruin for nothing. The way his lips felt so tender and hungry at the same time. Every time he kissed my lips, the way his tongue would run over me as he kissed my lips, my neck, my ear, my collarbone, my stomach, and even further down, tasting and pleasuring me in places only he would know. Like he was mapping me in ways no one else ever will. So now I am terrified. Terrified of the possibility that the same eyes that once opened so tenderly over me could go blank even for a moment, because I do not know how to survive that kind of shift. How do you go from being looked at like you are wanted, known, adored, to being met with silence that only reaches for you intermittently when he knows he won't be caught? How do you carry 3 years of friendship and all the tenderness that followed without collapsing under the weight of it when the person who gave it still goes still? That is the part I cannot bear, losing the evidence that I was once loved so openly in his face, because I still remember every crease of his smile, every softened glance, every careful hand, every moment he pulled me close, like I was exactly where he wanted me to be, like there was nowhere else he would rather exist. And I am afraid of what it will do to me if the man who once looked at me that way teaches himself not to look at me at all. Still, I am giving love and time, space to heal, space to untangle what broke, space for him to find his way through whatever darkness he is standing in, praying quietly that the road bends back this way. And still there is this quiet, stubborn thing in me that refuses to die, a small, flickering hope that somewhere, down whatever road he will decide to take, through all the noise and pride and fear, something in him will remember that one day time will loosen its grip, or the weight of everything unsaid will finally become too much to carry, and he will turn around and I will see it again. That look, that softness, those eyes finding me, like they never had to search, like I was never truly lost to him, like somewhere beneath everything he never stopped remembering either, and I was here all along, holding the place he left me in open, waiting for his darkness to loosen its grip, waiting for the man I knew to come back through it.